Hey guys, Shadow Strike team member Jaden here coming at you again, and in this video, it's gonna be kind of something like getting a little something off my chest that's really bugged me. And so if I get a little maybe a little, I don't know, defensive or even say things I probably shouldn't, I apologize. And I will tell you ahead of time, as you can still tell by my voice, if you've watched, I'm still not feeling too well. I'm just getting over a cold. I will be at my locals tomorrow, even though my voice sounds like fucking shit, but I'm feeling a lot better. So anyway, guys, let's just jump into this. I got a comment to me the other day, and they said that Vanguard is becoming the new Yu-Gi-Oh! And I literally had to walk away from the conversation because it really got me furious. Now, guys, don't get me wrong. I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Before I was 10 years old, and I'm 22 years old right now. And I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it was my first love of cards, of card games. I mean, I collected Pokemon cards before that, but I didn't really play the game as much as I loved the card game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I love this. It was just... Sorry, guys. I love the card game. It was fun. Back then, it was simple. You know, and in my opinion, the game is just slowly starting to go downhill. And I thought the game was literally going to go downhill until finally the ban list finally started getting fair again. I mean, honestly, if you play Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, and you also play Vanguard like I do, and when I'm talking about playing both games, I'm talking about playing them both evenly. I'm not talking about you play one game on the side, but you really don't pay any attention to the meta, or the news, or the new sets. I'm talking about actually being an active part in the community. Because... Guys, I haven't not competed in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Major tournament until the last regional I did, which was easily over 6 to 8 months ago. And before that, the only other tournament that I competed in was another regional that happened over a year before that. And guys, those are the only two major tournaments I've played in. And I placed in the top 20 in both of those regionals and got my invite to nationals. Yeah, so, I'm a very good Yu-Gi-Oh! Player when I want to be. I may not be as competitive anymore because I don't like where the game's going. I'm probably a lot better player than most of the people at my locals give me credit for, and it's because I make it known that I don't agree with how the game is going. I don't like how the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is progressing, and in my opinion. If you're not keeping the game fun, then what's the point? If you're not making the game fun for a big amount of a big group or the mass amount of people that buy your product, there's no point in it. Now, just ahead of time, guys, this video might be split into two parts in case it starts to kind of stretch. So. Be sure to check out part 2 as well if there is one, because I'm not going to speed through this. I really want to get all my thoughts out there. But I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, guys. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! For over... let's see. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! For almost 13, 14 years. I have been a dedicated duelist, okay? I have played... almost every deck that was ever great. I played Teledad when it was at its peak. I've played against Goat Control. I played against Lightsworn when they were the top thing. I remember going against Yada Lockdown decks. I remember Space and Chaos Emperor Dragon in the face when he was legal, and Solemn Judgment was the only out to him. And if you didn't draw him, you just lost. I mean... Guys, I have played when there was no such thing as Effect Veiler or Gores or Maxi. I have played Yu-Gi-Oh! At times. I have played Yu-Gi-Oh! During the times when it was the hardest game there was, because it was either you play these select few decks when there was nothing to counter it, or you just lost. And the only thing that's different now is there are 1 or 2, 3 things out there that can counter a bunch of things, but there's still only about 4 to 5 decks out there that can only win. Now, recently up until now, the only two decks that were winning anything was your Prophecies, which Prophecies to me is pretty much... It's pretty... Imagine a Okay, this would be the equivalent to a Vanguard deck of Prophecy. Every turn your Vanguard... You know how, like, Goddess of the Sun CEO, her Limit Break allows you to search a card out if her attack hits it when you counterblast too? The equivalent of that in Vanguard would be... You would basically, after you draw your card to start your turn, you get to search out any card you want. Any card. That would be the equivalent to Prophecies, because Prophecies, all the deck did was search, 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 search. That was all the deck did. And then you had another deck, which was E-Dragons, and all they did was special summon out big dragons, make level 7 exceeds, run you over, and had cards like Blaster, which if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, you'll know what I'm talking about, that just blow up your shit, and there's no way to stop it. So, you know, and this white thing you see, guys, is a blanket. I'm freezing. So, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time. I've seen it at its peak. I've seen it at its lows. There have been times when I've thought I'm going to quit the game. Guys, there have been so many times that I've wanted to quit Yu-Gi-Oh, and the reason I don't, honestly, is because I have friends that play it, and I want to still play with them. Because I will say most of my friends that play the game, they play the game because it's fun, and they don't play meta decks. They play it more to have fun than to just play the top deck and be the best player. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing meta, guys. There really isn't, but, you know, but at least be honest when the deck doesn't take any skill, guys. I've played E-Dragons on Duel Network and on DevPro. The deck took no skill. And when you came up across an E-Dragon player and you started playing them and you were like, oh, you play E-Dragons, and they were like, what, E-Dragons is a hard deck to play? No, it's not, guys. That deck took no skill whatsoever. But you still have your right to play it. All I'm saying is if you play Yu-Gi-Oh, don't be a meta cocksucker. Learn how to play other form of decks. Guys, for a long time, and probably the only time I ever played in the meta was Teledad, and that was only because I love Dark Arm Dragon. I love the artwork of the card, and that was pretty much it. And, you know, ever since then, I've maybe played one or two meta decks. The two being Chaos Dragons when Future Fusion was still legal, and Plant Synchro, and that was pretty much it. And ever since then, I've played Macro Rabbit when Mermels and Atlanteans were the main deck, and Samurais got their third Smoke Signal back, and other decks that were really strong unless Macro or some form of it was out, that just banished everything. And I've played Chaos Control, I've played Chaos Stun. Currently I'm playing Teledad again, even though Teledad in some people's minds has no business playing in the meta, which you have every right to think that. Now, this meta in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, I'll have to say, since it literally just started, what is it, January 3rd? Started exactly 48 hours ago, because the new ban list took effect on January 1st. You know, it hasn't been determined yet. It's going to be interesting, I'll give it that, because I think this format is going to be very important to Yu-Gi-Oh's future, because the last three formats before this, it was E-Dragons, E-Dragons, E-Dragons. And when I say E-Dragons, I mean E-Dragon decks, and also E-Dragon variant decks that mixed with other things. I mean, there was just these decks. Yeah, there were cards out there that stunned them, but there was nothing that literally was a guarantee against them. See, that's one of the main things I like about Vanguard. If you want to, like, for the longest time, there was nothing that countered Lock. You had Chaos Break that literally was a pillar of just death, you know, a pillar of Lock. And I knew eventually, I said eventually Bushiroad is going to come out with something that's going to stun this. Because every time something really good comes out, with Vanguard, they always bring something to level it back out. And this is very smart by them. And for the they let Chaos Break have his time as top dog. Like, Bushiroad's very generous. They're like, okay, we'll let you have your time. You can control the format. You can just remain there and you could just stay there as the top deck, and then they make something that counters it, and that's what's fair. But what's not fair is if they just basically said, like when Dragonic Overlord the End came out, they were like, okay, here you are, Dragonic Overlord the End, you're the best deck in the game, and arguably still one of the best. And I'm meaning in American and Japanese meta. I'm sorry, guys. And instead of making other decks to be as good as you that can compete against you, we're going to go to the other decks that have the best chance of beating you. We're going to take away some of their best weapons, and we're going to give you more. That was that. I mean, that if Bushiroad was going with the Yu-Gi-Oh approach, that would be what it would be. We're going to take away some of your key weapons that you can use against the main deck, and we're just going to give them more power. Which, if you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh, you should be smart enough to go, well, that really doesn't seem fair, and you're right, it's not. So, when I heard this guy say that Vanguard's becoming the new Yu-Gi-Oh, I wanted to smack him. I couldn't, because it was something that because, you can't smack someone just because you don't agree with them. If so, I'm pretty sure every Congress meeting that would just be a bitch slap fight. It'd at least make it interesting to watch. But, I mean, guys, like I said, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time, and I'm a proud Yu-Gi-Oh player. And I'll stand up for it, but, Vanguard is a much better game for a lot of reasons. And I'm going to cut this video off right here as part 1, and I'm going to go into part 2. And in part 2, I'm going to give you 7 reasons why Vanguard is not and will never be Yu-Gi-Oh! So I hope you enjoyed this part 1 of me just kind of explaining my point, explaining a couple things. So, hope you enjoyed them, guys. Please be sure to check out part 2, where I'll be giving you the 7 reasons why Vanguard will never be Yu-Gi-Oh! Comment, rate, subscribe, thumbs up this video, and I'll see you later.